Hi, everybody. The bell has rung. It's time to start. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Melissa Reyes, and this is Inspiring Adventures. And this is the first in a series of conversations with inspiring people and who will be my featured guests for the Year in Bloom, my program, which is to inspire you to live your best life. So tonight I have with me my featured guest is Chales G Hanna, and he is the author of this book, Higher. And it's remarkable, and he's going to share his story with us tonight and give us some tips on some simple steps to becoming happier in our lives. So thank you so much, Chales, for being here with me tonight.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the interview and discussion.
Well, luckily we had a chance to get to speak to each other here on Smile Time and on Facebook and try it out a little bit. So I feel like I've already talked to you a little bit more than I normally get to with a new guest. But I would like to tell the viewers how I came across and got to know you so that I could have you on my show, which is really exciting. So many of you know that I have been a blogger, and I self-published my own book 3 years ago. And since then, I've combined the two to review and read and share with other authors around the world. And I have been lucky enough to land on somebody's list, so I get a lot of recommendations for authors. And what I love about being able to review a book is to be able to meet that person online. I just think that that's a fascinating thing that we could do these days, that we could connect with an author on Twitter or on Facebook and get an answer from that person. And when we grew up, authors or writers were, kind of untouchable, and now I can speak with this person, and it's fantastic. So that's a little bit of a background on how I came across. But then when I got the email, okay, that is going to be turned off in a second. Sorry. When I got the email, I connected with the idea that was being presented as far as what the message is that Chales was coming with. And I watched some of his videos and posted them on my website because he's just has a really remarkable sense. So I hope that you get that. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question, Chales. First of all, can you tell me a little bit about your background, what you do for work and your family life, just your general, who are you?
Okay. I consider myself first and foremost a father. I'm a father of 2 children. 2 are grown up. One is still living with me. She's 12 years old. And I have an IT company. That's what my professional business is. It's in computers. It's servicing computers at large commercial accounts.
Okay.
I don't work at the company day to day anymore. I kind of manage it remotely, but it's so I am not active in it from a day-to-day standpoint.
But this is a company that you grew from the ground up, right?
That's correct. I started it when I was about 27, 28 years old, from the basement of my house, from nothing. And it grew into a large national company in Canada that's very successful in its field. And I've experienced great success with it over the years. And they're still with me.
And still what you do. So where, and you're in Canada right now?
I'm in Toronto.
Toronto? Okay.
Yeah. I was born.
Go ahead.
I was born in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
And I left when I was about 15, 16 years old. And we came to Toronto. My parents came to Toronto. A lot of my family came to Toronto. And that's where I got my education. I worked in the States for a while. I was with IBM for a few years, and then I started my own business across Canada. And I had branches in the States and Canada, and I reside right now in Toronto.
So do you come to the States a lot, to Los Angeles or California or other parts of the...
Yes, I love California. I come fairly regularly, about 3-4 times a year. I also love New York. I also love Florida. Sometimes I'll go to Vegas, and sometimes I'll just skip over and go to the Highlands.
Well, that's wonderful that you travel a lot. What led you to writing the book Higher?
I guess it was always foretold for me to be doing that one day. Since a very young age, I felt that our greater purpose in life is to really teach and to help inspire each other and to help each other to have a good life and to pass that on to our children. And it just so happened that my life gave me a lot of twists and turns that added to my experience and allowed me to see life from a couple of extreme vantage points. So it added to the, I guess, breadth of my experience and things that I, in the end, share in Higher. And I find that Higher is a book that's a foundation for a lot of things that I will continue to do through my website and subsequent writing.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Subsequent writing.
Subsequently. So what happens, it's you're Higher, the what do you call that? The second line of the title is Awaken to a More Fulfilling Life. Did you go through an awakening that you can maybe tell us a little bit about, that what transformed you?
Yes, I mean, I, like most people, when I came, I mean, actually, I'm a very ambitious person. I was the most ambitious person that I've known from all my circle of friends. So, I came from one extreme environment, very religious in Egypt. I was born into a Christian family. I came to Canada and I kind of abandoned all of that by seeing what the Western world is like, and I've kind of was disenfranchised with what I had grown to believe. And from there, I became fairly determined to be successful on my own, and I did that. And by all accounts, I became very successful, and I'm what people might describe like a self-made man and so on. And I had a lot of respect in my industry. I had good friends. I had good love in my family, and I married a beautiful woman, and I had a beautiful child. And then, lo and behold, I ended up getting trapped in an addiction to a very dangerous drug. That I did not expect to happen. I walked innocently into it, and then it got a hold on me. And no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't get out of it. And by all measures, I should have died.
And how old were you then? Where were you in your life when this happened?
Yeah, well, see, remarkably, most people get into drugs, if they do, at an early stage, like maybe from 13, 14 onwards. I did not really touch it until I was in my 20s.
20s. Mm-hmm.
So it was at a later stage for me. By the time I was 28, 29, actually 31 when I got into real trouble with it, when I found that I could not stop when I wanted to.
And at that point, you already had a successful business.
I was very successful. I had everything that I ever hoped for, and the sky was the limit in front of me. So I really was not complaining or upset about anything. It's not like I was unhappy or life gave me a bad turn or any of that. And yet still I found myself in an inexplicable position as to why I could not get my act straight. I talk a lot in my book and my videos as to what an addict, when they go through the active phase of addiction, why they cannot do that, and why people cannot understand why they would not stop. But the bottom line is I couldn't, and I almost died from it.
Right. Right.
In that process, I ended up having an awakening. You know, like faced with death, I had to really reevaluate what I valued about life, my basic core beliefs. And that's when I found that I was making some very fundamental errors in the way I looked at my life and myself and what I valued as being good and bad and what was important and scary and so on.
What would be an example of a fundamental error that you believed at that time? What were your belief system based on?
Well, I was very self-centered in my perspective. I always felt that, you know, I did not believe in religion anymore. I did not believe in a God. I felt I was totally on my own. I felt empowered. I felt strong. I did not need to have anybody's help. But what I was awakened to is the fact that no matter who you are or how powerful, how strong you are, it is not a good place to be, because you cannot control the world. You cannot command the world. And even if you did, you cannot control your death and destiny and all of these things. So unless you have a grounding that's outside of yourself, you will always end up being in a place of anxiety. And in the extreme sense, that would really turn you into a very bad place. So I realized that I had lost my connection with something that's greater than myself. Now, some people have that through a religious belief, through a God. Some spirituals have that through a concept of a higher power. Some people don't believe in either and think we're part of a random process, but still are aware that we're part of something much bigger. I mean, you only have to look at pictures of space and how little Earth is in the midst of everything to realize that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Right, right.
That's the connection that I was missing, and that's unfortunately the connection that many people miss. Because the mistake that I made, and I think a lot of people do, is when they find that maybe religion is not the thing for them, they throw out the baby with the bathwater, and that's the connection with something that's bigger. Call it God, call it higher power, call it whatever. And that's what I found myself reconnecting to, and it completely changed everything for me.
And who is that for you? Is it God? Is it religion? Is it similar to what you grew up with?
It's not like I'm a born-again Christian or anything like that. I never became religious even after that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a very strong awareness that I am going to be okay. Even if I don't understand what's happening to me, or I don't like what's happening to me, or it doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very aware of the fact that I have a very short life and a huge space of time and space. And I got everything that I had without any say on my part. I did not own my life. I did not manufacture my life. I did not create myself. Lo and behold, I did not create anything that's around me. It just came to me. So when I kind of came to grips with that, and I had to step back and really dive into that and believe it in my core, I found that I have a lot to be thankful for, first of all. And secondly, that I can just relax and let go. Life is going to go on by itself, and I can instead spend my time to actually enjoy it rather than squander my years trying to control it and get somewhere else that I think might make me happy, and it never does.
Right. When you had that realization, did you have it all at once, or was it in small bits? Like what first shook the earth for you? You know, was it hitting rock bottom? Was it just?
Yeah, there were a couple of jolts that happened to me that are very strong.
Jolts.
The first one, you can call it a rock bottom, which means I was faced with the prospect of imminent death. That's after trying for many years to have it my way. And you got to remember that I'm a very determined person. And I have created great success, had big company, many people working for me, hundreds of people at one time. And I did it all by being determined and never stopping or quitting or giving up. All the things you kind of learn and you teach children to continue to succeed. So I was not going to give up. And despite my best effort, I reached a point where I really felt that I was faced with imminent death at that standpoint, completely gave up and did not know what to do. So at that stage, I wanted to live. And I saw something that I describe in my book, which made me realize that my mind was being possessed by this disease. Like when somebody is in the active stages of addiction, their mind is actually being taken over by something else that tricks you and makes you, it really wants to kill you in the end. So my first realization was I had to stop thinking.
You just stop
thinking for myself, because I was dwelling like, why did this happen to me? How could they do this to me? If only this would happen, if only that. And I was driving myself crazy, but my best thinking got me there. So how was it going to get me out? And I just realized that I had to stop that and let other people guide me out. I would never have done that had I not reached that stage of complete and utter surrender.
Then what happened next?
And so what happened next is I realized that the only hope that I had was to actually let other people tell me what to do, and I will follow what they do. And that to me was hope that I might actually survive this if I follow that. And
trusting others, putting your trust and your faith in anyone else but your inner thoughts.
Exactly. I'm the kind of person that doesn't listen very well. I always do it, and I always do better than you or anybody else, and I could argue against even myself if I want to, effectively. So some of the concepts.
That's kind of funny, I have to admit.
It is, because I can take any position and argue, indefinitely. So it was very hard to break through to somebody that was as hard-headed as I was. And I was empowered by the fact that I was extremely successful, more successful than any of my friends. So that made me even more arrogant and less likely to listen to others. I forget when I walked into the hospital the first time, or one of the first times for treatment, and a counselor was telling me what to do. And I looked at her and I said, I can buy this hospital and hire everybody that's in it. How can you tell me what to do? Like, that's the kind of arrogance and anger that I had inside me. And it just is a picture as to where I went and how dark the place that I went to, being that extreme frustration. So when I realized that there was a way out and I was willing to do anything, I was open for the first time to concepts I would have never considered otherwise. And one of them was, I was told I had to connect to a concept of a higher power, something that's bigger than myself. If it's God, if it's spiritual, it doesn't matter what it is, but something that I'm comfortable with. And that started a journey for me of thinking, well, what if there was a God? You know? And the amazing thing is, God is not what I thought it was when I grew up. I thought it was a religious person that judged you and, was conscious and was aware of your thoughts and in the end, decided what was going to happen. I rejected that concept completely because it didn't make sense to me. Like, how can you judge me on something that you created me to do, for example? Or how can you be so fair to children that are suffering, or all these people that, are, just suffer needlessly? That didn't make any sense to me. So, but what I found is that my understanding of it was wrong. It's not that God was any of these things. So when I started to connect with it, I realized that God was far bigger than anything I had ever imagined. And it's not a person, it's not a human, it's not in our liking, it's just life largesse. And I started to feel myself that I was part of something that's much greater.
Wait, don't go on yet. I want to go back to what you said, because I think that's really profound. My understanding of what God was wrong. So it was, you came to a realization that what you pictured was the answer of who God is, was just, that wasn't it at all. It was something bigger than yourself, and it didn't fit that mold. Is that right? Is that what you said?
That's correct. I assumed that God is what they told me it is. And I didn't like that. God, so I thought that would be God.
And then
what I realized, not at that time, but over time, what developed is I developed a concept of a God for me, or a higher power, that is befitting with everything that I believe in and I understand, my logic, my intuition, my feelings, and all of that. And it became something that's very empowering, and it made me feel that I kind of understand, why some of the things that happen, even if they don't make sense to me. Or to anybody, for that matter. So that was the first jolt, which made me stop and open my mind to think in different ways that I had never thought of before. The second jolt that happened to me was a few months later, when I was in a meeting, and I described that in one of my videos on the website. When I was sitting in a meeting and somebody was talking about their story, and I suddenly came to grips with the realization that, no matter what I do, I might die. And I became very afraid, and I was crying at that meeting, and I had people all of a sudden come around me, and I felt this caring and unconditional love that I had never felt before, especially because all my life I prided myself being successful and looking good and talking well and helping other people more than I receive, and all of these things so that people can like me and accept me. Well, at that time, I could not have been less successful, less attractive, stripped of all kind of pride or even dignity, for that matter. Physically, I was very depleted, and yet I experienced this love. And that was a very profound moment to me, because what happened to me after that is I realized that I got loved because I'm a human being, not because of any of my accomplishments. I received everything that I valued without having to have all this facade that I spent my whole life trying to create. And I came to the realization that all that did for me was actually create a distance between me and people. It made me different. Even though I was thinking I was better and so on, and people would admire it, what happened is I actually disconnected from them.
Oh, I see.
The people that were lucky were people that identified and were equal and were the same as each other. And that's where the humanity and humility comes from.
The humility.
So humility.
Can I ask you a question about that? When people are so successful, yet they're still not happy, and they might be just still searching for something else. They want more, and nothing fills that need. More money, more power, more everything. Do you think that's what they're missing? The point of that, what they're searching for is not something that can be bought?
Yeah, no matter what they accomplish, they will never feel better than they do. no matter what they accomplish. And I'll prove it to you in 2 minutes. Okay? We're born and we don't have to pay for our life. I don't have a bill that pays for the fact. I had no say who I am. To be a man, to come at this stage, to have the qualities around the people at this time in this country and all of these things. I had no say in it whatsoever. I got it for free. But the gifts that I got are priceless. My freedom is priceless. My children are priceless. Just my vision to be able to see, how much would you sell your eyes for? If I gave you $1 billion, would you sell your eyes if you can only spend $1 billion on yourself the same way you can only use your eyes for yourself? I don't know anybody that would take $1 billion to give their eyes away. Or what if I took your freedom away, put you in jail for the rest of your life and gave you all the money you would? Or put you on an island like Tom Hanks was stuck for 4 years in Castaway. Would you give him all the money in the world and you think he'd be happy if he was to never have any human contact? Just human contact alone is worth more than all the money in the world. Any one of these things that we have, our dignity, our freedom, our health, our mobility, our love, our self-identity, any one of these things is worth all the money in the world. We take them for granted, but let me ask you this. What could you possibly achieve in your life through material success or fame or looks or anything that could measurably add to that?
That you can measurably add to that?
Yeah. The only way you think it can measurably add is if you take everything you have for granted, you use it as a zero, and you're only looking for the delta. But the fact is, if you cannot be incredibly happy with what you already have, intrinsically happy with this priceless gift that you have, nothing more is going to make a difference.
Right.
And I can tell you that from my own experience, because I have achieved that and found it did not make any difference.
Right. So how do you feel now that you know this and live this every day and you didn't lose all the things that you had? You're able to build that back up. How does that make you feel?
I feel wonderful.
You're like telling everybody about it, right?
No, I feel wonderful that I met a lot of people that were successful before, and when they got better, a lot of them were not fortunate enough to gain back their success. Certainly, when I faced that ultimatum of death or changing, I was on the verge of losing everything. And in fact, for all practical purposes, I had lost everything. I lost the trust. I lost people around me. My company was on the verge of bankruptcy and all of these things. So for me to be able to come back with a renewed sense of spirituality and a completely different way of looking at life and still be able to achieve even much greater success than I had before is obviously very vindicating and empowering to me. And as I mature and grow older, by the time I wrote Higher, I have even gone further and further towards a more spiritual outlook on life. And I asked myself in the book at the end, I said, what if I had not worked 80, 100 hours a week? What if I had not been so determined to be successful and instead followed the principles that I'm laying out in this book? Would I have been as happy as I am today, where I do admittedly enjoy some of the material successes that I've had? And I'll tell you, material successes are nice. They're no different than having a nice, hair or nice this or that. But it does not make you happy. It does not make you unhappy either. If you're intrinsically happy, you're going to be happy with money or without money, and vice versa.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that from a point of view of someone who is successful, because a lot of times people who are still struggling for that success might find it easier to say, well, I love I love my life. I'm going to make the best of it, and this is the best it's going to get. And maybe not strive for that because they feel like it's not going to make a difference. But I think it's important to strive for success in life in all areas. And that's what A Year in Bloom is about. It's about feeling your healthiest, your happiest, and your most successful, where you're thriving. And I feel like we could do that all the time. And that's why I love talking to entrepreneurs and people who have really invested so much of themselves into their own business and are turning that corner. And it's so exciting when they start to be successful and they have that grounded feeling of gratitude and of, that they owe it to someone beyond themselves, like you said. And it's really nice to see. It gives us hope. It's a great way to start out the year and say, you know what, I can have it all if I believe. I believe in myself. I believe in God, and I believe that, you know, this is really good today. I feel really great. And that's about all I can control is right this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
I do believe that we have it all right now.
Yes. Okay.
But I also do believe that you need to always strive for more, because that's what life is about. It's about helping other people and so on.
Yeah.
But you've got to start by taking care of yourself. I see way too many examples of people sacrificing their time today, working round the clock and trying to do this and that and the other thing because they feel at one point they're going to be able to rest and enjoy life after having it. And I think that's the lesson that I have learned in life is you don't do that. You will never be happier than you are today. You have everything that you need to be happy today. You can still do better, but not at the expense of enjoying today and taking care of yourself today. And by taking care of yourself, it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, spiritual, and all of these things. And I talk in the book about what are the things that are important in terms of taking care of yourself. Because if you're not in a good place, if you're not healthy and happy and positive about life, what are you going to contribute to people? You're just going to be needy and actually more of an obstacle and a hindrance to others. And I say in the book, one of the oxymorons I ever hear is that when a parent says, I sacrifice myself for my children.
Right.
Where's the logic in that? What children want from you is inspiration to see what it's like to grow up and be happy, to be inspired to be like that. But when you are unhappy and you're kind of like struggling to pay for the bills for the children, yeah, you may be paying the bills and you may be getting one or two things, but the important stuff that makes the emotional makeup, you've sacrificed along with yourself. So you have to take care of yourself more. Once you've done that, God bless your heart, go succeed as much as possible, go accomplish as much as possible. That's what it's all about. But never forget the basics because you already have that treasure. Enjoy that, take care of yourself, and then it will unfold in front of you to become obvious what you can do next.
That's great. That's just so I love listening to you because you put into words what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and for so long. And I've got some comments that people are watching and they're adding in on Facebook. And we're at 30 minutes, so I just want to take a moment to take a breath and say thank you everybody for being here. Share this out with your friends right now on Facebook, and so that people can come in and talk and hear, talk with Charles and hear his message. And if you make sure that you set your Facebook notifications to be notified when I have guests on. I'm here every week, and I have literally 50 people throughout this year that we're going to be talking to who will be sharing their story and sharing their beliefs and why this is a really great place and a good world, and we are good people, and everything out there that's negative, we can overcome because we have that positivity that we need to share. So I'm taking it upon myself, and as much as responsibility that as much that I can add to the world of positivity and to make up just for whatever I can do, because I believe in the power of positivity and of love, and I think it's about communication and sharing. So with that, share out to your friends here on Facebook and type in some questions. We've had some comments I'd like to share with you, Charles. And then I don't know if you saw these yet, but one, let's see, this is Valerie. She says, this presentation is amazing. Thank you for sharing your story, Mr. Hanna. What I hear from your message is true humility. And then Kathy says, yes, raising children is exasperating, and raising teenagers is exasperating as well. So you can see, people who are watching you now are in the thick of this, feeling like they're, like, where is the joy in this hardship of my life? Where do I find that joy? I know I found it. I did very much of what you said. I found myself in a place where I thought, I'm not working at a job that I want to be at. I'm working at a job that is good for the family or is good for the kids, and I was doing everything for the kids. And that was my goal, had always been to get married, to have a home, and to raise a family. Then I thought, wait a second, they're all going to leave me. They're boys. They're going to be gone. Then what am I going to do? So I started looking into what I really wanted to do. And that was writing and having, everything led to becoming a life coach and helping other people. And when I did that, I realized what a gift that not only was I receiving, but that I was giving to my children, because even though I still, gave them so much focus, I was also taking care of myself and doing the things that I love. It made me a better mom, because I wasn't cursing everything. I wasn't like, I got to do this laundry and, I've got to take them here and I've got to do that. And I don't even get to do my job that I loved, I didn't want them to feel guilty for that. So instead, it was part of the joyful things, because I was able to express myself and lock myself in my little room here and do art and meet people online. And they saw that it was productive, and that was good. And they're very supportive. They're young men now, but when they were little, they didn't really understand until I had the book. I think that having a book or having something like that, they were really proud of that. And to have your children be proud of you is a really huge gift too. And I think they realized that I didn't do it just for myself. As a mother, we want our kids to know that we exist for them, but yet we also have a life of our own.
Speaking of that, I asked my daughter, who is maybe 10 at the time, I said, "What do you think of my book? This is Daddy's book." And she looked at it and says, "Boring."
Oh.
Really think I said, "Yes." I said, "Daddy, if you want to sell," I said, "I'm trying to write a book for children for that." So he said, "Nobody's ever going to buy it. It's boring. If you want to have children buy it, you better have a title like How to Survive Grade 5 or Grade 6.
Then, How to Survive Grade 5. That's a good title.
True, children have a world just like ourselves, complete with its social structure and all the anxieties, everything. They're just miniature versions of a complete life that we have.
Yes.
But one thing that I want to mention that's really important. I'm always really overwhelmed when I meet people in my life that could have all the breaks available to them in the world, but they don't get them because of their personality. And I find that people that you find attractive and you're drawn to, because they have this kind of like glow inside them. They're very positive about life. They don't think ill of anything. They let you look at things from a positive standpoint and make you feel good about yourself and about everybody else that's around you. You find yourself like you want to be part of their life. You want them to be part of yours. And I find that when people take care of themselves, it's incredible the opportunities that come to them by just being in a better place.
Right.
And I think that's what most people miss. They think being in a better place is something that you work at through determination and sacrifice and so on. But in fact, if you would just do the basics and take care of yourself and become a really kind of like well-adjusted person, that you're going to come across a lot of other people in life that will really translate into successes and opportunities and directions that you may have never even thought about before, and you should be open-minded to that.
Yeah. Having that human connection with other people who are like us. I don't know why my eyes started watering. I'm not crying, everybody. I'm an emotional person and tears will flow. But right now, I don't know what happened. My eyes just started watering. But yeah, having a human connection and I think that's what is so nice about support groups and being in a community, is being able to share your experience. I've been talking a lot about that concept of sharing and opening up, and everybody has something to offer. Everybody has a story, and even if it's just a remembrance or something that that they liked, that they can tell someone else, and then that person says, "Well, you know what? That reminds me of a story that I know." And you know what? We have so much in common. Nobody would think that you and I would have anything in common, Charles. But I connect with you because I appreciate how insightful you are and how much you have to offer the world.
Thank you. And that's the magic. It's when you have humility is when you connect with other people.
Yeah.
Humility actually is the magic that allows all people to identify with each other and have that connection. When you see children that are young children, what is the one thing that makes them the happiest? It's playing with other children.
Yeah, playing, having fun.
More than anything else, that's what they enjoy. But as we grow, we end up developing this way of thinking that separates us and isolates us and become competitive, and we don't like this and we don't like that. And it's actually our problem is just the way our mind tricks us into believing that we are completely in command of our life and how it's going to transpire in front of us. But at our core, what really makes us happy is this human connection, because we're all in this party on this world. It's a party that we have been invited to. We enjoy it. And so I think it's really important to remember that humility is what it's all about. It's what connects us to one another.
Mm-hmm.
And now, how do I change my way of thinking? How do I get out of this space where I'm always afraid and stuff like that? And one of the most important things that a lot of us don't pay enough attention to is being connected with as many people as possible, talking to as many people as possible, listening to as many people as possible. And I am saying talking not just about politics and the weather and the sports and what happened yesterday at the party and stuff like that, but I'm talking about your core values, the things that keep you up at night, the things that you hope are going to happen to you in the future, the things that you are most embarrassed and afraid of. You need to develop for yourself a circle of friends that you can trust and they can trust you, so that you can exchange and open up your mind to their perspective of yours. That's how you change your perspective. That's how you become healthy emotionally and intellectually, and you get out of yourself. And when you do that, you end up finding yourself that you are in a safe place among people that you love and care, and that you are lovable yourself. And things kind of roll out in front of you after that. So they're very simple techniques, but we don't realize them because nobody taught us that.
Right. That we didn't have to pay for our life, and it didn't come with a guidebook. We're just here. And so that's, it's really important. I think that's wonderful. So if we're talking about steps to being happy or, living a happier life, what would you say would be the next step? If we've talked about understanding, a higher power, so that something's bigger than yourself, by having humility and understanding that life is about unconditional love and that others love us. And then, having that support system of people who we trust and we listen to and accept. And what else would you say are your steps to having a happier, more fulfilled life?
Okay, I'm going to show you a way that you can figure those steps out for yourself, which is more important than me telling you do 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So one of the things that I realized with my different way of thinking is that I don't own myself. I talked about this concept that I never paid for my life. So how did it come to me? I don't know where I came from. I don't know where I'm going. I'm entrusted with it. When I started to think of myself that way, I started to realize that even though I have the authority to do as I want with my life, I don't have the freedom to abuse myself, because I don't belong to me. I don't own my life. This has been entrusted with me. It's a very paramount shift in the way you look at yourself when you see yourself in a third-party sense. It's the same way as when you have a child that you feel you are responsible for and you need to take care of. In that same manner, you are responsible to take care of yourself. If you're ever going to give thanks back to whatever created you, whatever this higher perspective that you may have about life, it is you owe it to yourself to take a look and take care of yourself in the same manner that you would take care of your own little child.
Wow.
In fact, even more so, because your child has itself or himself or herself to take care of later on. You only have yourself. If you abandon yourself, you're lost. So when you ask me, what do I need to do to take care of myself? Do the things that are very simple. We know them, but we don't do them. We know, for example, for our children, they need to have a good sleep. How many of us sleep well? All of us like us staying up late and getting up early and doing this and trying to stretch the limit and get as much hours as possible. And we miss the fact that sleeping well is the best antioxidant, better than all creams and all these other organic foods that you can think of. It is when the body heals itself.
Women have been saying beauty sleep, right? For years.
Yeah. Having a good sleep. And so what you do when you take care of yourself, spend a lot of time doing that. So you want to make sleep, you want to celebrate sleep. You want to make your bed a beautiful place to be in. You want to make the transition to go into sleep a fantastic part of your day. That's the importance when you start changing your priorities that way. And make sure also you don't, and exercise, well, be active. Even if you cannot exercise, don't stand, I talked about this before, is I can't stand it when I go down an escalator and I see people just standing. You could just walk down. It's really not that much effort, but it does a lot for your muscles and your body and so on. So make sure that you have a lot of activity in your body, and make sure that you eat well and make research. Spend the time to understand what is missing from your diet and how to make it better and so on. So these are very basic, simple things. They're not easy to do. Very few people do them, but they're very simple. Once you get the physical aspect done, then you want to look at your mental and spiritual aspect. And that's really the subject of my book, as to how you become more mentally healthy. And one of the best ways to do that is just to get out of yourself. Don't isolate. When you're alone and you see all these people that have made all the money in the world and they end up locking themselves away, they become crazy. They become weird. You've seen examples over and over again. So connect with people a lot and develop a concept of this higher power concept and having a group of trusted people and being able to talk about your things. Don't keep resentments inside you. Don't keep secrets that only you know about, because you're going to think ill of yourself when you really shouldn't be, because we're all in the same boat, and so on. And then enjoy life every day to the fullest. Realize that you have it today. So when you think about it and when you start not worrying about all the other stuff, you start acquiring a taste for the simple things that otherwise you would have just kind of skipped over. We have all this, stop and smell the roses. I can't smell the roses because I'm busy doing my wash, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. I don't have time to smell them. Well, there's the problem. It's what we're fixated on that's the problem.
Right.
If we were to enjoy our life, the opportunities will come in front of us to do good and to contribute. But the best way we're going to be able to contribute to humanity and to our children is by power of example. People are going to look at you and say, I want to be like you. I want to be around you. How did you do it? And that's how you help other people, not by building castles and so. I mean, that's nice. It's nice if you can do it. But first you take care of yourself. That's important. So in the same manner you would take care of your child, if you took care of yourself, you'd be amazed how far you would get much further in life.
I love that. I love that idea, to take care of yourself the way you would do for your child. Because, you protect your child in a way that you don't always think about, that you have to really take care of yourself. I like that. Thank you. That's a different way of looking at it. And, I really believe in that full body self-care, the sleeping well, the eating well, being active, and, nurturing your mind, and, being involved in a community, and having a spiritual life. All of those things are what A Year in Bloom is about. We have 5 webinars. I know you're not even aware of this, so it's so nice that you say all those things, because it really fits in. But I have 5 webinars. The first one is this Saturday, and I'm going to be talking about the soul. And then we're going to do mind, body, heart, and spirit. So just kind of a few hours every few months, just to talk about how we could make ourselves the best we can be. And it's different for everybody, so I have a kind of a loose outline. My outlook is really about who's going to be there and what they need, not what I want to tell them. So just gathering the people around right now. So I knew when I read that email that I got about you, and when I saw your videos are really wonderful. I think I'm going to drop in the links so that anybody watching can connect with Charles and get his book Higher. It's remarkable. It's you could really relate to it, and I love your style of writing. And also to watch him on YouTube. He has those wonderful, wonderful, inspiring videos. And is there anything else that you want people to know about you?
Yeah, it might be important for them to know that I am not doing this for any profit. I am not making any income on the book. This is something that I am giving because I feel it's my duty in life to give it. So it's not like I'm promoting or I'm going to benefit from the sale of a book or anything of that nature. And if there was some income that came from it, I would put it right into extending the message to people that really need to hear something that uplifts them and gives them hope and a new way of looking at their life.
That is that's that humility, and it really is. It's what makes you so wonderful, and I love that. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. So excited.
Well, that's more than I bargained for. So it's
well, my last show that I had, up until last year, I've done over 100 interviews over a couple of years' time, and it was called Tinseltown. And so I wanted people to feel like they're superstars, and you're a superstar, but I don't really have that terminology to make you feel like you're inspiring, but you are. And that's what this show's about. You're inspiring, but like you're still a superstar. I think you're, kind of like a shooting star. When someone sees a shooting star, you get really excited because you don't always see that, and it's lucky, and we wish on it, and it makes us feel happy, and we think that's really out of reach. Yet I got to see it. And have you ever seen a shower, a meteorite shower, where there's lots of shooting stars in the sky and it just gets lit up? I remember one time my husband and I got up in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 in the morning, to go outside because that's when we were going to have the best view of the meteor shower. And it was so exciting to feel a little tiny, like you're really small, because that's so far. It took so long for that to travel to the point where we could see it, right? And it was there in an instant, and we could have slept through it and missed it. And it's so special. And that's the kind of star you are.
Well, thank you, but I want to say something about that. When I hear or somebody gets told that you're a shooting star or anything like that, I don't want my ego to feed into that. So there's a part in me that would say, no, Charles, you're not a shooting star.
Oh.
You may look like a shooting star, but remember your humility. What you're seeing is my humanity. It is something that's inside you as well. It's in all of us. So what you're seeing is the beauty of our humanity, not Charles'.
Okay, now I'm going to cry the real tears.
But it's true. And that's what you get when you look at life that way. Because we are a beautiful life that we have. And it's just a way of thinking that we have, unfortunately, in the way we're brought up and the way society promotes it, we tend to think in a very self-centered way, and we miss the big picture. That's such a beautiful gift that we have.
Yes. Humanity. Wow. Guess what? There's 10 minutes left.
Uh-oh.
I want to know if you have any questions for me, and if anybody else has questions. The comments are flying. They're talking about Mother Teresa. They're saying how interesting you are. They're thanking you. Yeah, Mother Teresa didn't like to have photos taken of her, and she didn't like compliments. And I think, people who are truly selfless and wanting their messages, I understand it's not about you. And I think that just, that makes you even a better shining star to me. But I get your point. It's like, yeah, it takes, you got to slow down and look if you want to see the humanity and the beauty in life. If you don't stop and look, it's a two-way communication kind of thing. It's not, you can't be if you're a star shining brightly and no one sees it, are you, what difference does it make? You can shine as bright. Everybody can shine as bright. My word for the year last year was sparkle. And I talked about sparkle, and people are like, oh, yeah, of course, bling, right? And glitter. Well, no, it was that inner sparkle, that way, that wanting to be polished the best, like if you're going to have a party, Charles, you would have your house cleaned, right? And put that shine on it. That kind of, you want to make it sparkle to look good for everybody. And so, it's the effort, the extra effort. But you can't just go around with sparkle all the time. You'll just keep, like if you polished something to the point where it's going to be dull, right? You have to have a balance. There has to be a little bit more of reality. And so, bringing it down to earth.
Well, life does that for you. Life does it by giving you challenges. And a lot of us say, why do I get these challenges? Why do I have these obstacles in my life? And even when I overcome them, even bigger challenges come along. That's life's way of making sure that you're in balance.
Making sure that you're what?
In balance.
In balance, yes.
And
exactly.
Actually appreciate your life. I do mention the example that if you, for example, lost the use of your arm and couldn't use it for 6 months, If after that you got it back, you'd be so grateful to be able to use your arm, and yet you've taken it for granted before.
Right.
So a lot of times we cannot appreciate what we have if there wasn't a loss and win back and struggle and going back and forth. And in the process, of course, we're learning and growing and becoming better at learning how to live with life.
Yeah.
So life takes care of that. It presents you with enough challenges. And that's why you need to embrace them. That's why you need to look at them as growth opportunities. That's why you need to realize that they are the way that's going to make you feel more grateful about the things that you have, even if it doesn't make sense to you at the time.
Right. Looking at your challenges as opportunities. Was that what you said?
Exactly. Because you said earlier on, we were not born with a manual as to what to do.
Right.
So how do we get our instructions, Right. And I give this example of pilots. When they fly, they have a very specific destination, altitude and speed and time, and they cannot deviate from it, even though they know everything there is about aviation. Well, we are born, we have no idea where we're going, where we came from, and how do we get our instructions? And we get it through the lefts and rights, the feeling good, the feeling bad, the challenges, the opportunities. So having a challenge is just as important as having an opportunity. It's life telling you, halt, you're doing something wrong, fix it. And if you become angry, it's because you're fixated somewhere different. If you are instead open and connected and realize that it's not about you being somebody standing in your way, you start looking at this as an opportunity to actually correct something that you may have been blind to.
Yes.
Obviously, we're blind to that you need to take care of.
Right. There's a comment in the side here about someone, Kathy, she says, I lost my mom and dad a month apart. Talk about life taking care of that and giving me challenges, even when I wasn't ready. And I experienced that too with my parents passing away and my sister passing away. And my kids were little when my mom needed my care. My dad was ill, he couldn't take care of her, and she ended up living with us, and she ended up going to hospice during that time. And my friends and family, my coworkers, all my relatives said that is too much for me to handle, and that my kids would be traumatized by having my mom die in our home, and all this outside influence. And I felt like, it was very challenging not only to go through it, but to go through it without a lot of support. And the support that I had was my husband and my immediate family, and we did that. I did that for my mom because that's what she wanted, and it showed an example to our kids of what being completely selfless is, and how we can't decide when somebody's going to die, and we can't decide when, we want to take care of them. It happens, and you do it. And it was a very, very challenging and hard time for me. But when I looked back on it, I realized that it was a wonderful experience, and that I learned so much. And I learned so much about love and family and how I wanted my life to be, and learned so much from my mom, who taught me till the moment she died, and gave me so many gifts. So like Kathy says, even if you don't think you're ready, nothing prepares you for that. You have it in you, and you can get through it, and it can be beautiful.
Well, it depends on your faith, again, in the higher order of things. I was at a funeral of my uncle about a couple of months ago, and my aunt, his sister, was crying and crying and crying. And I found myself going to her, and I said to her, assume we were at a party tonight and he was with us, and at 9 o'clock he decided to go home because he's tired, and you're going to see him in the morning. Would you be crying all night long because he's not at the party until 1 or 2 in the morning?
Right.
I said, look at life that same way. The fact that somebody departed doesn't mean they're gone forever. They just went home early. It was their time to go home. And you enjoy the rest of the evening. Don't cry the rest of the evening. Celebrate the fact that they are there, always been there, will always be there. And that's how we need to live our life. We have to have faith that this is something that we don't necessarily understand, and it's much bigger. If we were to see it, if we ever could, I don't know if we ever could, but if we were to, you'd realize that we could never have made sense of it. And it's when we try to make sense of it, that's when we have this anguish and sense of unfairness and helplessness.
Yes. When you try to make sense of it, you have that sense of unfairness and hopelessness. That is so true. But if you accept and you just, don't try to control everything, it's so much easier. So, Yeah, Valerie says there's a very thin veil between us here on Earth and our loved ones. It's really neat because the conversation is starting between the people and they're making comments to each other.
That's
So
great.
later you can go, I shared this on your page, Charles, so you can go back and address some of these questions and if you like. And I'm sure that everybody would love to hear more from you. And how do you want people to send you messages or connect with you through social media or through me? What is, do you have something coming up where they can find out more about you and your message?
There are several ways to connect. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but I also have a website, and it's called higherbook.com or charleshanna.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can subscribe to it. You can get notices of when I'm going to be speaking next or interviewed, or if I'm going to be putting up an audiobook and so on. I am speaking, for example, at Idea City in Toronto in June, which is kind of like a TED Talk of Toronto.
TED Talk of Toronto. What is it called again?
Idea City.
Idea City. Okay, we'll have to look into that.
And if you go to my website, it's there.
Okay.
And also, you can post questions to me, and as I find it possible, I will answer maybe even through a video clip or an audio clip or a written response. But I encourage that dialogue because I think these are great opportunities to implement this way of thinking to day-to-day issues that a lot of us sometimes get jolted, as I do too. And I need to balance myself every once in a while. But I found myself that every time I did that, I found that there was a beautiful way to look at things. And life kind of unfolds in a very different way when you do that. So yeah, I welcome that connection very much.
Well, very good. Thank you so much. Do you have any parting thoughts?
I love you.
Oh, I love you too. And yesterday, a good friend of mine who's a spiritual guide, let's put it, she told me that I needed to tell myself that I love myself. So I love you, Melissa, and I'm really glad you're here. So there you go. And so that's it. Thank you so much. If you want to connect with either of us, find us here at mizmeliz.com or on YouTube. I'm at Ms. Biz Events, and Charles is the Hire the book Hire.
Higherbook.com.
Higherbook.com. And this is the actual book, Hire, by Chales Hanna, Awaken to a More Fulfilling Life. And the wisdom you gave, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. And if anybody wants to join me tomorrow night, I have a special interview with Kat Cronenberg, who wrote the book Dream Big. And it's a children's book, but she has a message that will be really wonderful for all of us to hear about dreaming big. So again, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and go off of Facebook, and then we'll be able to say goodnight. And our comments from people in the side here are thank you both so much, and God bless you both, and God bless both of you. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Good night.
No, that was not too bad, was it?